Yeah, it's a touch more black. This black that I'm adding is jet black, but it's also reduced already. I use this for airbrushing. So if you were to put 3 drops of straight jet black in this, it would turn it like a slate gray almost right away. It's extremely strong color, but because I have it so reduced, I can add what you just saw, and it just really starts to tint that color. It just takes the edge off it, and I think that right there is going to be perfect. Yeah, that's looking really good. Okay, so I have to reduce this now, and I have approximately, get this off the edges here. I have about 7.5 milliliters of paint. So for this, I'm going to double that. I'm going to bring this up to about 14, 15. So it's 1 to 1, which is more reduction than they normally recommend. But I work in such light layers that I find this just sprays a lot nicer when it's on the thinner side. This isn't by any stretch, this isn't like a steadfast rule. You know, different colors have different reductions to them. But with this one, the blues tend to be a little bit heavier. The white is definitely heavy. So I like to give myself a little jump on that by over reducing it a bit. And see the viscosity now is much different than it was a second ago. That is a pretty color. That's going to work out great. And even with that jet black in it, you know, you hear a lot, people say, you know, never use black in your palette. It's just a great neutralizing color. I almost use it more like a brown, more like an earthy tone than, you know, if I'm trying to darken a color, you know, I don't automatically grab black, but if I'm trying to neutralize a color, black is does a great job at that. Okay, to make my life easy, I'm going to add 40/30 to this right now, because as long as I keep it in an airtight bottle, which I will be, the 40/30 holds up pretty well. So I added about 3 milliliters of 40/30, so I'm at about 20 right now. And that's just enough bite. That's just enough to kind of get this paint to where I need it to be. Again, this is a baseline color for me. I can add 40/30 to it once I start spraying with it. I can thin it once I start spraying with it. I can thicken it, but it would involve, you know, adding more paint to it. But like I said, this is just kind of a base color for me. All right, perfect. Now, I'm going to do is grab my bottle here. Get this ready. So let me clean this one out real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strain it into this other cup, and then I'm going to put that into the bottle. Again, I went from never straining my paint to now being like a straining zealot. I love straining it. I cannot believe the amount of garbage that builds up in these paints just by sitting in bottles. And all of the bottles, whether it's the manufacturer bottle or bottles that you know you pour your paint into. It's amazing how that dried paint just like flakes off and ends up getting into everything you own, which is terrible. It really is, because it'll, you know, just ruin the way your airbrush works. I broke my rule there. Hold on 1 second. Clean that out. Okay. Good. Strain this out into here. Excellent. Clean that out in a second. Let that finish straining out. So if you catch these bottles as soon as you use them, I mean not the bottles, if you catch these cups as soon as you use them and just rinse them out, You can keep reusing them, which is really nice. They're not expensive at all, but they're nice to have around, and there's no need to add more to landfills if you don't have to. Okay, so that should be just about ready, which it is. I'll take the second two. Oh geez, okay. And again, I'll show you this. I don't know if you can see it, but if you look at the bottom of that strainer, see all the garbage that's in there? If you had asked me even a month ago if I thought there was that much garbage in one, little bit of paint, I would say no way. And again, that's not something that comes from the manufacturer, because I've been straining everything lately, so the clears and just about everything, and it's not coming from the factories. It's literally just flaking off inside the bottle and ending up floating around in there. All right, that's clean. That is ready to go. So I have my mixing bottle all set up. Try not to make a mess. Excellente. Now what's nice too, the blue is transparent, but the white is opaque. So this color is actually going to cover, which is nice. Cover back on, and we are good to go. Okay, I'm going to switch you guys back, and we'll put that first layer of color on. So I have my magnets here. I'm going to try to put these in places where they'll hold that stencil down. These magnets are really strong. They either like each other a lot or don't like each other a lot. So I got to kind of be careful with my placement here, because they'll start snapping together or push each other apart, which I don't want either. So we'll just get as many as I can to work. And that's actually going to work. This one's kind of going off by itself now. It's like, I don't want to be here, or I want to be there. All right. The other thing I'm going to do, because I'm awful close to the edge here, I don't want to get overspray there, so I'm just simply going to block this off with another piece of paper. It doesn't have to be adhesive here, because if I'm not doing my job, if I'm getting paint flying all over the place over there, again, I wouldn't be doing my job really well. Hold on 1 second. I'm fighting magnets here. Stop it. There we go. It's going to go right about there. That'll cover that up. Yeah, why not? I was going to say, I'm probably not going to get paint down there, but for the 2 seconds it takes to block that off, it's worth it. Same thing over here. Again, getting a halo blue over there wouldn't be very fun. Make some room here. Oops. Yeah, good luck getting that off. Good. I think we're ready to go. So, since I literally just made this paint and I just strained it, I'm not going to strain it into the brush. So the goal here is to get this area that's exposed this color blue. Now with this still work in really light layers. Even though I have most of it covered up and masked off, I don't want to run the risk of having a bunch of paint go where it's not supposed to go. And again, remember, this has opaque flat white in it, so it's going to cover this gray. So eventually I'll be able to get it up to the saturation point, and in this case pretty quickly too. Again, I don't have to get it too saturation on the first pass, so I just want to kind of get some paint in. Something for the next couple layers to stick to. And obviously in some areas, like where the body color is down here, it's the same, almost the same. It's a variant of this color, so if I get overspray on that, I'm not overly worried about. Where I am concerned about is places where the blue meets the gray behind. I don't want any paint to creep under there, because that means I'll have to fix it later. Again, it's not a terrible fix because I've got that color mixed up, but anything to save aggravation is worth it. And like I'm going to get some underspray there just because it's hard to keep that part down. Oh, this is a good blue. Excellent. So I've run out of paint. So I'm going to dry that off a little bit, let that cure. I'm going to go at it one more time to make sure I get full saturation because I don't want any of that gray showing through. And again, remember, this is just blocking in. So there are no highlights, no modeling yet. It's just getting it the color it needs to be. I'm going to see if, I doubt I'll be able to. I'm going to see if I can get a magnet to stay right. I can't. I'm going to see if I can get a magnet to stay here, but it's not going to want to. It's just going to want to run to that one. But what I am going to do is I'm going to switch this one and this one over here. Because again, the trunk lid here is blue anyway, but I don't want to get it on the gray up here. So, and rinse and repeat. I know it's hard for you to see in the video, but I can see, like I can see that the trunk lid here is at full saturation, but where the body is here, I can still see that gray kind of poking through. So I just want to make sure all that gray from underneath is gone. Again, these areas here where the wheel well is, it's not critical if there's underspray there. That's interesting. I don't really need that one anyway. Yeah, it's the one side about using magnets that can be tough on a smaller surface. They tend to want to meet up or repel each other. I could do this with adhesive mask, but then I run the risk of cutting into the surface or needing to pre-cut all the masks, and that's a pain in the butt. So this photocopy magnet system is still the best way to go. Alrighty, now the fun part is getting these jumbo magnets off of here because they don't want to come off. These ones are okay. This one here, I got these just recently. These are neodymium magnets. This thing sticks like crazy. There's one here that I got in a bundle pack. This one here. This thing is rated to hold 200 pounds. So if you stick this to a like an I-beam in a basement or something, you could put a hook on this and it would hang 200 pounds. It is ridiculously strong. If I put that on my bench, it's really difficult to get it off. So I don't do that. These come off and we see how we did. The moment of truth. So you can see here zoom in. There's overspray right there on the part where the window is, but that's no problem because there's a whole bunch of painting that goes on there. Same thing down in here. That's all good too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly cure this right now, and then we'll be ready for the next part. Okay, I'm going to cure this. We'll be right back and get cutting on the next one. Okay, so the light blue is curing. Let's work on the dark blue a little bit. I'm going to include both of these, even though this is obviously darker than the next blue that's coming. It's going to be easier to add that in if I cut all that out at once. So that'll be a fade in the end. where it goes from the regular blue color that's here and here. It gets darker on the wheel well. That's just going to be easier to fade it in. So just cut this out again. And you'll see this when oh, yeah, actually that's not what I wanted to do. No, actually that is what I wanted to do. No, that's not what I want to do. So again, where I cut this out before, where these two matched up, this blue is here, so I want to keep that. How do I want to do this? I know what I'll do. Okay. So there's a lot of this, decision making on the fly as you go. So the wheel well, even though you can't see the difference between these two colors, you can see it here. So what I'm going to do is when I paint this, and you'll see this, I'll start painting the blue all in here. I'll have it fade, but then I'll let it go. I'll just fade it out as it comes to here, and then I'll pick it back up here where this area is here. Simplify that. Make sure I'm cutting out the right spots. Try to be as accurate as I can with this blocking in, but if I'm a little bit off, it's not going to make a huge difference because, again, this is really just the basic kind of, basic kind of areas for this. There's going to be a lot of adjusting anyway, but again, the more accurate I can be here, the less work I have to do later. So it does help to get the blocking in part done cleanly. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to cut this out as well, but I'm going to save this piece and I'll show you why in a second, or once I get painting. Come across there, perfect. Again, I'm ignoring all the badges and the marker light on the side here I'm not worried about. Those all get put in after. It's great. I'm really happy that Brad, the future owner of this painting, wanted the tail end of this Cutlass. I just did a Cutlass painting, and I did the front of it, but the back end of the 69 is just, I don't know, they really nailed it. The front is cool and everything, but it's kind of like a lot of times like the Corvettes are identified by the rear end of that car. So I feel that same way about the 69 Cutlass. The way the lights are in here, and it's just so well designed. It's just makes me happy. So I'm really happy that he wanted to kind of feature that. Especially because I just did the front end of the other one, so. What am I doing here? Yes, that's what I'm doing. And for this one, I'm just going to keep that going around there. Like that. Okay. So I'm going to save all these bits and pieces. I'll need them when I get painting. So throw those off the side, and I'll just use the magnets to hold them in place so I don't lose them. Get this piece out of here. So I'll need that one too. Believe it or not, I actually save all these cutouts. For every painting I have, there's a file, and that file has all the cutouts for that painting. Not that I'll ever use them again, although I have. There's been an instance where, a painting will get damaged and I've had to fix it, which is really, in that case, it's great to have all those cutouts because you literally don't have to do anything. You don't have to, jump through any hoops. You just pull out the cutout that you used originally and you're ready to go. But again, that's not usually why I do it. It's just it's a habit I got into a while ago where I just kind of keep everything. Okay, so the back side of this is good. This section along here is the same color as this, but I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to do that yet. If I go and cut that piece out, this whole, the top of the trunk lid's going to want to fly up when I'm spraying. So instead, it's much easier to treat that as a separate thing. But I'll save this just in case. Maybe. Okay. So that, I think, is good. Oh, wait. I gotta make sure I'm looking at the right thing there. This bottom part here is... Let's see, hold on. Okay. I'm just saving those color chips from before. Okay. Okay. Good. This whole thing is chrome. I just want to make sure there wasn't a piece of the body color kind of poking back up. Perfect. That's all I need for that. So I'll throw that aside, throw that aside. Now what we got to do is we got to mix up the slightly darker color for this bottom section. But I've already got the paint mixed up. Now it becomes easy. Now that I've already got that first bit on there, it becomes much easier to line things up. I don't have to use all my grid marks on the bench anymore. Just want to get this as close as I can. Ideally, I'd love to see blue all along this, because it'll mean there will be no gaps, which are going to be good. And I think we're there. I can start locking it down with magnets again. And again here, only right there in the front. Actually, not even there, because the bumper is there, the front bumper. So there isn't really anywhere on here where a bunch of overspray is going to cause a big problem, which is nice. I like that. But I'll still try to protect it as much as possible. Same deal here. I don't want to get, definitely don't want to get dark blue out on here. I doubt I'll get blue down here. Same thing. For the 2 seconds it takes, throw that on there. And the same thing out here. So I'm going to need these. Okay, so I still have some of that blue in the airbrush. I didn't clean it out because I knew I'd be basically making a darker blue anyway. Okay. So I have some of that blue in there. I'm going to add a little bit more. So I've got the same color in there now. Just want to make sure I have enough of it. A little bit more. Okay, so in order to get a deeper color here, again, I'm shooting for a base color. I'm using that base color, but I'm going to add more of that blue violet to it. So that'll richen it up. It'll get it deeper. It'll give me that secondary bluish color without killing the color. It'll just really kind of pull it together nicely. So I have Detail Cobalt Blue, which is that base blue that I used. And for this, I'm just going to add it right in. I'm going to add 1 drop of Cobalt Blue, which will definitely darken this up. And to counter that and give myself a little bit of transparency, I'm going to add 4 drops of 40-30. And do I want to? Yeah, why not? I'm going to reduce this just a hair. So I'm going to add, same thing, I'm going to counter that paint I just put in. So I put 2 drops, 5 drops altogether of material. 1 drop of paint and then 4 drops of 40-30. So I counter that with 100% of reducer. So I added 5 drops of reducer. Ish, you know, close. Let's see what we got. I may have to add more blue, which I do. I do want this deeper. I want this noticeably deeper. I've added enough 40-30 that I don't have to add any more, so I can just add the blue to it. And to keep that kind of same, make sure I get the right one, yeah. I'm gonna have 2 drops this time. I really should be straining this again, but I could go wrong. All right. That's going to be good. That's going to be good. So that brings it much closer back. It starts to bring it back to that cobalt blue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of jet black to this as well, again, to help kind of counter that vivid blue that's in there. I'm going to add probably 4 drops. 5. I'll go 5, see what happens. Again, this jet black that I just added is very reduced. Great, so that gives me that kind of more slate blue. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. I want to avoid the wheel well right here to start, because it has that kind of transition we were talking about, so I'll show you that in a second. So I'll get some of the other areas pretty much locked in. Lovely. Okay, so the wheel well. Let us start with the lighter part of the well. So this is going to block off everything. This piece that I originally cut off, that piece right there is a really dark transitional piece. So because I saved that, I can just use that as the guide for this piece here. That. And again, because it's the actual cutout, it fits in there perfectly.